what is up? Welcome back to Path of Exile Heist with Lone Debater 7, and today we are going to be starting out Act 5 and seeing how far we can get. Hopefully we can get pretty close to fighting Kitava for the first time, or the boss for the act, but we're going to dive right in. First things first, if you're in Act 5, you're going to want to have at least one green item, an item with at least one green slot. I've got this unset ring that I picked up on one of my characters while leveling. I don't remember when. So I'm just going to use that because you only need it for like 2 seconds, so you can use Desecrate to get your correct summons. You can always go and purchase like a wand or something like that. As long as it's got a green slot, that's all you need. But anyway, let's go ahead and enter into the control blocks. That's the first thing you're going to do once you go into town and talk to everybody. So we're in the control blocks. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we're going to go ahead and take our ring, equip it, and we are going to use Desecrate, which is Control R for us, to get our slave drivers up. So for your specters, you want to have slave drivers. They are really good with this build. They synergize really well, and that's kind of what you're aiming for. Okay, so this one can only have one minion, or one specter up at a time at the moment. So we're just going to take that off, put our cold resist ring back on. We'll just hide that little guy right over there because it's not that big of a deal. So we've got our skitters, we've got our zombies, we've got our stone golem, and now we've got our slave driver specter. So let's go ahead and clear out the control blocks. Not too bad. Basically just get your homies up here, and with this build, DPS is pretty good, so I mean clearing stuff is not that difficult. You just want to make sure you don't get too far ahead of your minions and boost into stuff, otherwise you will end up killing yourself, which isn't fun. Kind of like that. So if you run too far ahead of your minions, you end up doing more harm than good, just because kind of the idea with this build is your minions are supposed to be tanking most of the damage for you. That way, you know, it's not as big of a deal on your armor, strength, resistance ratings, and all that stuff for your actual character. With that being said, going through, I guess I could pop a quick silver flask like I've actually played before. You know, might help. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna just jump down because we need to go across here anyway. And then I believe you go through this little piece right here, so get all of our little skulls up here, summon raging spirits. Got a silver coin, that's nice. Keep on pushing through the map. Not too bad. I mean, control blocks is not a difficult spot at all. I forget what the quest is for this. I think it's more or less you gotta find the dude that's highlighted by that exclamation point, and that unlocks the rest, or the Ravage Square, if I'm remembering correctly. It's some sort of square. It's basically the main connecting area for everything. So we're just gonna warp down, grab this, warp back up because we're pros, right? So we don't actually have to take the stairs. We can just, you know, flame dash over. Little tip there. You don't, if you can, it's kind of a little bit hit or miss on when you can warp across stuff like that with flame dash. But it's always worth trying because it will end up saving you a shit ton of time if you are able to warp through, right? So I would suggest, you know, if you can see something through like a fence or whatever, try to warp to it with flame dash just to save you the time of walking on foot, because even with movement speed boots and a quicksilver flask popped, it may be, it's still going to take you more time. So like I can't warp down there, that's what I was trying to do, so we're gonna have to go around, it looks like, and it's because there's like a little mini boss over here. Not a big deal. Basically we're just gonna be killing him like you do. So drop your W on him, get the Eyes of Zeal, you can pick up the flasks or whatever he drops if you so desire. Not too big of a deal. I did, in the meantime, I wanted to take a break from playing this character just because, you know, I've already leveled one of these up to 74, 75, something like that. So I decided to build a Essence Drain Contagion witch build, and oh my god, that build is super fun. It basically like clears out the whole room instantly. So I might make a video about how to get one of those set up as well. Let me know down in the comments below if you would like to see that, and we can definitely add it to the list. So go through, we're going to go to the square, Oriath Square I guess is what it's called. It turns into the Ravaged Square after you do some stuff in the act. But that's the first little bit done. There is a waypoint right here, so I'm going to go back to the Overseer's Tower of the town for Act 5 and sell some stuff and also turn in these quests. Because we might end up getting something good, so I don't really care about any of these. Might be worth getting the Stibonite Flask, we'll take that I guess. And we do get an extra skill point, so cool. We're going to go ahead, identify this one. So create smoke, immune to poison. So this is basically an evasive flask, it helps you dodge a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, we could change out this... Yeah, I think we're going to change out that life flask, is what we're going to do. So we could use this hollowed life flask. The mana flask that we've got is better than the one we picked up, so we're just going to orbit transmutation, this hollowed life flask, see what we get. 100% increased recovery when on low life. So basically that means if we're about to die, it's going to make this flask really good. This also gives us immunity to shock, so that's not bad, actually. I think we're going to take that. Why not? Might as well, right? If we find something better, we'll swap back. But there we go. We're going to sell some of this stuff, drop off our currency, and we're going to apply our levels. If you haven't at this point started using the Path of Building, I suggest that you do. It's linked down in the description for the pastebin link. That way you can figure out where to go. So I forget what we were working towards last time, so I'm just going to reference my build guide and see what we need to take. So we got all of these, cool. We could go for the wand damage. Nah, that's not worth it yet. It might be worth getting this chaos, I think is what we were going for. So let's finish off our chaos resist. It also increases our life a little bit, so it's a good wheel to finish, especially before you fight Kitava, because I believe he does chaos damage primarily. So it's going to be nice to have that extra resistance before we fight him. With that being said, back at it, kill some more stuff. You know, like you do in Path of Exile. But I actually really like Act 5. It's one of the acts that doesn't take quite as long to, you know, complete or whatever, which is kind of nice. Some of them, like Act 3 is a great example. There's just so much stuff you have to do in Act 3 that it takes a while to get through the entire act, regardless of, you know, how much DPS and shit you have. It's not that it's difficult, it just, you know, is I don't know, it takes a while. So Act 5 is different. You get to the boss relatively quickly in this one, so that's always nice in my opinion. With that being said, we're just going to keep on going through, push in. Hopefully we can find where we're supposed to go. So we're supposed to access the Templar Courts, is what it's called, because we're going to go fight like a mini act boss inside of there. And that unlocks Innocence, or I think it unlocks Innocence, if I'm not mistaken. Or it's Sin. It's one or the other. I can't remember at this point, but we'll find out together. And depending on how time is looking, because, you know, I still don't really want to make these super duper long. Obviously, I could record the entire act and just do it in one video, but it'll probably be, you know, close to an hour. So I don't want to do that to you guys, just because I know that it gets a little bit daunting when you have to watch an hour-long video just to kind of get caught up. So we're gonna try to keep to our you know, 20-minute thing. So here we go. We're in the Templar Courts, so we have to find Avarius and kill him. Pretty easy. That's the main Templar dude. And this life flask that we picked up that gives us immunity to shock is actually going to be really good for him, because I believe he does primarily lightning damage. So if we pop our life flask, which almost certainly we're going to have to do while fighting the boss, at least that's typically how things go for me, you know, we will get lightning resist whenever we pop our life flask, which is helpful. So while we're refilling our life, we also will end up getting resist to whatever the dude is dropping on us. So that's nice. It's a good combo for this part of the act anyway. If we could find one, superior melee, I don't care about that. Well, we'll pick it up because it's superior gem. I try to pick those up just because sometimes they're worth something if you're trying to like sell stuff to other players or what have you. People will pick up leveled superior gems, so if you have an extra slot that you can put it in and a character that you can level it up with, it's typically worth doing. Anyway, so we'll just finish this dude off. And I kind of was thinking as well, I mean, showing this progression build guide is kind of the primary goal of this series, but I also wanted to show a little bit of mapping and kind of how that works with this character. So we might take like a little break once we finish Act 5 on this character and kind of show off what the leveling is going to, or mapping is going to look like once you're fully leveled. Just so you guys can get an idea of how that kind of plays out with this character. I will say that it maps fairly effectively just because there's so much DPS. However, if at least on my leveled build of this, I don't have all my resistances capped and stuff, so you got to be super paying attention in order not to just, you know, die because you don't have good resistances and stuff like that. So bear that in mind. You definitely want to prioritize getting your resistances capped with this build because it just makes you that much stronger. Your DPS is always going to be pretty good just because you got so many minions like this, but if you don't have your resistances capped, if they get a shot off on you, you know, they drop you quite a bit. So bear that in mind. Obviously before Act 5, you don't have the negative modifiers on your resistance caps until you beat the boss. So after we beat the Act 5 boss, we're going to have minus 30% on all of our resistances, which, you know, is going to be a big deal for us because right now we have a little bit of resistance to everything, but once that 30% hits, I think the most we're going to have on anything is like 10%, which is not very good. So we made it to the Chamber of Innocence. This is what you were looking for inside the Templar Courts. There is a waypoint up here. If you filled up your inventory, I would suggest going back to town, just because this is the Chamber of Innocence is kind of a long little run. Anyway, so let's go ahead, drop these guys off. So we've got all these stupid contracts, clutter and shit, but that's fine. I'm just gonna throw this ring away for a minute. I guess we can put this gem inside too. And let's take a look and see this hollowed mana flask 7. And it's still not as good as the one that we've got, so we're just gonna sell it, I guess. Clear out your inventory. I like to clear out my inventory anyway, just because sometimes you get a bunch of really good items all at once, and if you don't have the space, it kind of sucks. You gotta throw things away, which I don't like doing, because it's better to get, you know, the alteration or chromatic orbs, whatever the currency you get from just selling it to the shop is. I like to take the time to kind of gather that up just so I don't have to worry about having enough of the basic level currencies. You know, obviously you want to get like chaos orbs and stuff like that because that's by and large the primary currency used when you're trading with other players, but those are rare, so you know, you'll get some, you know, along the way, but I find that it's worth getting the other currencies as well, just because then you can upgrade the items that you do happen to farm while you're, you know, going through and clearing maps or doing the axe, leveling, whatever it may be. That way, you know, if you get like a white level of something really good with a good base, like it has good resistances or good sockets or something like that, if you don't have any orbs of alchemy, you know, you probably won't want to wear that piece of equipment just because, you know, if you can get a prefix and an affix on the item, it's going to be a lot better for you just because it does more. Whereas if you do have chaos orbs kind of ground up, which, you know, or not chaos, alchemy orbs, which do take a little bit, they are fairly rare as well. You know, you can level it to a yellow level, which, you know, adds I think it adds a prefix and an affix, or prefix and suffix, right? So it gives you your affixes. So it's worth doing. Bottom line, it's worth selling stuff. So like if you've got inventory space and they're yellow or blue items, it's worth picking them up typically, just because, you know, you're gonna end up being able to sell that for, you know, alteration shards or alchemy shards or whatever, so you can actually, you know, progress through and get some orbs so you can level up your gear. With that being said, I think we are headed the right way. I hope we are headed the right way, I guess I should say, because it kind of takes a little bit. So here we go. Like I said, this is a pretty large level, so this is one of the longest pieces when you're grinding through Act 5, is just, you know, finding where to go through the Chamber of Innocence. And after that, I mean, I guess the torch courts are kind of large too. They're not too bad though. So let's keep going. It's probably down here where all the homies are. But I mean, we're doing pretty good. I guess we've lost a couple zombies, so we can summon some more just real quick. So we can hold 6 zombies now. That's good. We did lose our Spectre, which is kind of disappointing. We'll have to go back to the control blocks and pick another slave driver up, just so we've got that rolling, because they do add a lot of DPS to this build. So it is worth, you know, if you lose your Spectre while grinding through the act or whatever, go pick another one up now that we've unlocked Act 5 in the control blocks. You know, there's no excuse not to have all your Spectres up as slave drivers, because it's just a simple port back to the town, and then, you know, using Desecrate and Raise Spectre one time each, and you're good. So anyway, we are kind of clearing reasonably well. There are some dudes around here. I'm not going to pick that up. It's a white, not even worth our time. I did change my loot filter to a strict filter that still shows all the, you know, basic currency items. And the reason why I did that is because at this point, I mean, yeah, we could be picking up some items and stuff like that here and there, and it might be worth doing that if this is your league start or your first character through on the league or whatever, or you need a lot of base items. But for us, we don't really need a lot of base items, just because I've leveled, you know, 2 or 3 characters already. So we're not gonna, I don't want to pick up all this stuff. Like, there's so many loot items that you get just from clearing maps like this that you will fill your inventory in like 5 seconds if you don't have a, you know, strict loot filter on and you're picking up everything. So you may see me just skip over various items, and that's totally fine. You can do the same, or you can stop and pick everything up. It's kind of just how you want to play the game. For me, I prefer to kind of skip over stuff. I like picking up the currency items just because they are worth gathering. I've got a currency tab, however, which I had to pay for, so I can hold basically an unlimited amount of currency items, so I don't have to worry about them filling up my basic, you know, inventory tabs. So here we go, Sanctum of Innocence. This is what we're looking for. This is where you fight the boss Innocence. Before we start that fight, I'm just going to portal scroll back. We're going to go into the control blocks, grab our Spectre, and we'll probably apply these 2 levels, just because I want to have the max amount of DPS, so I put away that ring, huh? Damn it. I should have just kept it on me. I mean, we're not filling up with that much stuff as it is, because I'm not really picking up that much. So here we go. Go back in. So cast your Desecrate, find a slave driver, which we've got one right there. Raise Spectre, cool, and we're good to go. So I am going to finish out the Chaos Resist wheel, so there we go. And we do have one more point, so I think what I'm going to do is start work. I mean, we could go for more life, I guess, would make us a little bit tankier. We could also work this way. So you're supposed to go over, get this int node, and then kind of work through this life. So I think we're going to go up this way because it leads into more damage event ultimately. So we're going to do that. I'm going to sell, you know, the garbage items that we picked up. So like that life flask, I guess we only picked up one. one item out of that entire map, but whatever. It's fine. I don't really care, in all honesty. So here we go, back to the Chamber of Innocence, and we're gonna go ahead and fight Mr. Innocence over here, big boy. So there you go. We dropped our W on him really quick right off the bat, and just watch out. He's got a lot of attacks that will one-shot you, so just bear that in mind. It's not too bad. Like, this build is very strong, all things considered. Like, it DPS is so fucking well. Like, we got him down to half-life in, you know, less than 30 seconds. So once he drops his little shield here, we should be able to drop him the rest of the way. He does spawn, I believe it's 3 waves in total, so this is the first wave of little minions that he sends out, and this is for people that need to refill their flasks or whatever. It's part of the game mechanic, so it can be useful, you know, if you're losing your flasks. But there we go, dropped him just like that. So there's Innocence defeated, pretty easy. And then we get this dude right here. So this is the real Innocence, and now we're on to phase 2 of the boss fight. So this is where it gets a little bit harder. He animates the stone golem dude, which, fuck. Alright, well, I did that wrong. Watch out for that death ray, because it will one-shot you. So basically the way you do it is you kind of warp around with your flame dash and use it to escape. So here we go. He's going to spawn some more minions. Not a big deal, because the minions die pretty quick. And I call them minions. They're not really minions. They're just, you know, random dudes that he calls in. But that's fine. Not a big deal. We haven't lost... I mean, we lost 1 zombie, I guess. But we may have started with only 5. I can't remember if I, you know, maxed that out to 6 or not. But as you can see, like, we do pretty well. If we would have timed the, you know, death ray that he summons a little bit better, we would have been fine. The benefit of this build is even when you're running away, you're still doing a shit ton of damage, because all your minions do not run away, so they're going to be focus fired on him, especially if you have your W procced on him. So make sure you cast your W spell on Innocence. You know, when he drops his shield, it resets, so your minions know what to target. And for this one, he starts summoning, you know, bigger monsters. So you might want to use your W just to kind of DPS him down a little bit easier. So there we go. Dropping him. Here we go. He's going to do his Ray. And there we go. We got Innocence beaten pretty easily. I mean, we did die once, but that's just because, you know, I suck and didn't dodge the death ray the right way. So if you're playing, just be prepared for that ray, because it will one-shot you. The next thing we got to do is go through the Templar Courts again. So when we go this way, it spawns you right out at the entrance. You talk to Bannon up here, and then you got to go through the Torch Courts. So we're just going to dive right in. We don't really have a full inventory or anything, so we're just going to get it done. Not too bad. I mean, there will be some dudes up here, and you may notice that they have kind of gotten a little bit buffer as far as how much damage they're going to do to you. So bear that in mind. You don't want to sit there and tank shots, at least not with this build, unless, you know, your resistances are better than mine because you found better gear or whatever, because you will probably get killed, which, you know, isn't a good thing. You don't really want to die if you can help it. Especially if, I mean, you definitely don't want to die if you're playing hardcore. I'm not, so, you know, not the end of the world if we perish, but, you know, always better not to, I would say. So there we go. We'll get our 6th zombie up just for funsies, increase that DPS even more. We'll drop a Stormbrand, I think is what we're using on our W for this one, on top of that guy, just to DPS him down, because he, for some reason, had a large life pool or defensive pool or whatever. So there we go. We've targeted the yellow guy up here, so all of our minions immediately go and focus fire. Now these dudes, there's like a spellcaster somewhere. So this guy right here is the one that spawns those giant golden beams. Do not stand in them. You will instantly die. So yeah, that should be your priority. Take that guy out, because it just makes it annoying when you're trying to walk around the map. stuff like that. I am going to grab this sulfurite. I did a little bit of delving on my main build just to kind of clear that out and get some more azurite. If you're not familiar with the delve, it's kind of end game content. You can access it after Act 4, I want to say. It's Nico is the dude, so I think that is in Act 4. You meet him for the first time. So it's worth gathering the sulfurite because you need it to progress down the mine, because each expedition costs a little bit. But anyway, I've spent some and I upgraded the amount that I can store, so I want to try to fill that bar back up so we can keep pushing on the delve. Because once you reach a specific depth, and it's like way deep in the delve, you can go ahead and get a crafting recipe for 6-link items, which would be amazing for us because then we can, you know, potentially craft the chest piece that we want, which is a 6-link blue. But anyway, so there we go. We made it through the torch courts. Now we're in the ruined square. Not too big of a deal. Not too big of a deal. There's a bunch of dudes out here, of course, so just DPS them down like you do. I mean, by and large, the gameplay's the same. I do like this one a little bit better than my main build, just because it still has Frostblink socketed. So it gets that little extra buff of movement speed, and an additional way to proc the Elemental Equilibrium perk that we've got. But it's not required. Like, if you need the blue link for something else to complete the gem socketing, you can always take out Frostblink. You don't need it. You do need... Or, well, I say that you need Flame Dash, and I think that's pretty much true. Like, if you don't have Flame Dash or some sort of movement spell, you're gonna just die right away and keep dying the entire time. So bear that in mind. Like, you wanna have Flame Dash or Frostblink, in my opinion. So that was some sort of shock mine. Not too big of a deal. There we go. There's the waypoint, and we're gonna go back to town. And we are getting close to that 30-minute mark, so I think we're gonna sell all of our items and kind of go from there and pick up next time on finishing the act. Let's take a look at the reward. So we got a Crimson Jewels, Viridian Jewels, and Cobalt. So projectile damage doesn't really help us. Fire doesn't really help us. Chaos doesn't really help us. Lightning doesn't really help us. Or, well, lightning kind of helps us because I think that's what the, whatchamacallit, the slave drivers use. They cast, like, a lightning spell, but I don't know, like, sure, we're gonna go with this one, hazardous research. Why not? And we'll probably just end up selling it because I don't think I actually have a use for it at this point. And I've got a bunch of other gems, so not a big deal. We're just going to identify all these and sell them because they don't have the sockets we really need. And I'm just going to go ahead and sell that gem too because I don't want it. It gives us some alchemy shards, which probably more valuable to us at this point. So there we go. Get our currency stashed away. And I think we're going to call it here for today, guys. So if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, comment, subscribe as always. And until next time, this has been LD7, and we will see ya.